I don't know about you guys, but I will be waiting all day for Sunday night.
Before we get into today's video, guys, I just want to give a special shout out to today's sponsors, starting with Gold Fine and Bowles, lawyers for the injured. Personal injury, workers' compensation, those are their two things, but any sort of legal advice, they're the people to call. Give them a phone call, 309 673 5144. Tell them we sent you, okay? And I'd also like to shout out SeatGeek for sponsoring today's video as well. Use promo code PlayBookSports on their website to get $20 off your first purchase of $30 or more. Let's get back to the video.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video brought to you by the Playbook Sports Podcast. My name is Colin, and I am here to preview the Sunday night football matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry World. Round 2. First round went to Philadelphia at the Link in Week 9, 28-23 final. You look at the stats in that game, I'd argue Dallas outplayed Philadelphia almost on every level and lost. Came down to executing when it mattered most, came down to executing in the red zone, and Philadelphia did a better job of that than Dallas did in the first matchup. Coming into this game, obviously, first place is on the line. Philly's coming in at 10-2 after a rough home loss last week to the Niners on Sunday. Dallas is coming in at 9-3 after a thrilling win at home on Thursday Night Football against Seattle. So Dallas has a couple more days of rest, and they didn't get as banged up in that game against Seattle as Philadelphia got in their game Sunday against the Niners. Excuse me, I can't speak apparently. However, looking at this matchup, first place is on the line. If Dallas wins this matchup, they will be in first place on Monday. But you look at the tiebreaker as far as division go, as if Philadelphia wins out and they have the easier schedule moving forward, as they've had the harder schedule in their review mirror. Dallas, for the rest of the year, they go to Buffalo still. They still go to Miami, and they host Detroit. Those are three really tough teams against two for sure playoff teams, two divisional winners, and then Buffalo, who's kind of frisky there in the mix. Mentioning that Dallas and Philly would both be 10-3 with the Dallas win. Dallas will be in first place Monday. But at the end of the season, if they're both have the same record, Philadelphia would win the division based off conference record. Dallas has 3 losses against NFC opponents. They lost to Philadelphia, they lost to the Niners, and they lost to Arizona. That Arizona loss is going to haunt them. Philadelphia would only have 2 losses if they lose Sunday night. The first one being last week at home against San Francisco, and then their second one potentially being Sunday night against Dallas. So 2 losses is better than 3 losses in the conference, and that would give Philadelphia the division title, assuming a tiebreak at the end of the season. Looking at Dak Prescott, he's been incredible the last 7 weeks of the season. They've won 4 straight at home against Philadelphia. Dak has in his career. Dallas Cowboys have won 14 straight home games. Their last home loss was week 1 of the last season against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they lost 19-3, and Dak got hurt in that game. Looking at a couple of team statistics here before we get into the individual statistics, Philadelphia is averaging 27.4 points per game this season. Really good. You're going to win a lot of games scoring 27 plus. They're 47.9% on third down offensively, which is excellent, top 3 in the league. However, weirdly, they have a -2 turnover differential, and you wouldn't expect a team like Philadelphia or a 10-2 team for that matter to have a negative turnover differential. It's just showing the first couple of years of Jalen Hurts' career. I don't want to say they were conservative, but he did a much better job protecting the football. This season, they've given it up a little bit, and they haven't taken it away as much as they have in years past. You have 2 excellent corners, a really good safety. I'd say they have 2 good safeties with Byard and Blankenship. And then that defensive line gets so much pressure and so many sacks on the quarterback. It's surprising that you don't have more strip sacks and fumbles forced and fumbles recovered on the season. But a -2 turnover differential is an interesting thing to think about moving forward with this Eagles team. On the other side, the Dallas Cowboys average 32.3 points per game, which is first in the NFL. They're 48.5% on third down offensively, which, like the Eagles, is top 3 in the NFL. Very good third down offenses. This is where it separates. Dallas is a +8 turnover differential compared to Philly's -2. Dallas is doing a better job taking care of the football offensively and doing a better job taking it away defensively. Excuse me. So those are some team statistics that I think will be key in this game. The offensive scoring, their third down conversion rate, and their turnover differential are 3 big points in my head when it comes to analyzing teams. Can you stay on the field and extend drives offensively on third down? Can you score ultimately when you get down there? And can you take care of the football or take the football away? Turnover margins, one of the biggest things to look at in games. Normally, if you win the turnover differential, you're going to win the game. Obviously, there's a lot of instances where that wasn't the case. So looking at some individual statistics, let's start with the Philadelphia Eagles team. We're going to start with Jalen Hurts at quarterback, 66.5% completion on the season, just shy of 3,000 yards at 2,995, averaging about 250 a game passing. 19 passing touchdowns to 10 interceptions with a 93.8 quarterback rating on the season. He's been really good. Hasn't been as good as he was last year, but he's still been excellent. This Eagles offense has been really good, and he is the driving force of that offense. Looking at his rushing yards as well, he has 430 rushing yards on the season, averaging about 3.6 yards per carry. As we know, a lot of his carries are 1 and 2 yard interesting carries. I'll say I don't want to talk too badly about a certain play. 12 rushing touchdowns on the season. 9 of them have came from that 1 or 2 yard play. And then 35.8 rushing yards per game. So, and 3 fumbles lost for Jalen Hurts this season. So he has 31 total touchdowns, 13 total turnovers, around 3,300 yards total on the season, with a 66.5 completion percentage. So Jalen Hurts has been really good this season, and he's ultimately the reason why the Eagles have been 10-2, being able to will them to come back in a lot of these games late in the second half, much like he did the first time these two teams meet. Dallas took a 17-14 lead into the half. Eagles came out 14-0 third quarter. They didn't score in the fourth quarter. They didn't have to. They came out and, got that energy, got the momentum back out of half. Can Dallas do a better job this time around? Comparing the quarterback on the other side, my guy, Dak Prescott here, 70.1% completion percentage this season, 3,234 passing yards. That's about 270 a game, 26 passing touchdowns to 6 interceptions with a 108.3 quarter or passer rating on the season. Now, Dak's rushing numbers definitely aren't as good as Jalen's. 174 rushing yards on the season, 4.2 yards per carry, 14.5 yards rushing per game, with 2 rushing touchdowns to 0 fumbles lost. So Dak Prescott total yardage is right around 3,400, with 28 touchdowns to 6 turnovers. Do you take 3,300 with 31 and 13, or do you take 3,400, so more yards, less touchdowns by 3, but less turnovers by 7? Dak Prescott, plain and simple, has been better than Jalen Hurts this season. Argue with the wall. Looking at the running backs for both teams here, DeAndre Swift, 167 carries on the season, 783 rushing yards, 4.7 yards per carry is excellent. 4 rushing touchdowns on the season. He's averaging about 65 rushing yards per game. 0 fumbles lost. He's laid it down on the turf a couple of times, but he's been fortunate not to lose them either time. Main one being when they played Dallas in Week 9, him and A.J. Brown ran into each other, and the ball was right there for the taking. And the Eagles, I believe it was their rookie guard, fell on the ball, saving the possession. On the other side, Tony Pollard has 180 carries for 737 yards. He's averaging 4.1 yards per carry, 5 rushing touchdowns, about 61.5 rushing yards per game, with 1 fumble lost. So where I gave the edge to Dak Prescott at quarterback between these two teams, I'm going to give the edge to DeAndre Swift at running back. Has more rushing yards on less carries, averaging more yards per carry. He has 1 less rushing touchdown. He's averaging more yards per game, and he has less fumbles lost. So I gave Dak the quarterback. I'm giving Swift the running back advantage. Looking at the wide receiver ones first here, A.J. Brown, who was an MVP candidate a few weeks ago, has 81 catches on 118 targets this season, 1,164 receiving yards, 7 receiving touchdowns, and 97 yards per game on average. Now, looking at the other side, CeeDee Lamb has 90 catches on 121 targets, 1,182 receiving yards, 7 receiving touchdowns, 98.5 yards per game, 1 fumble lost. A.J. Brown did not have a fumble lost. So CeeDee Lamb has 9 more catches on 3 more targets and has about 18 more receiving yards, same amount of receiving touchdowns, averaging just about 2 more yards per game. And he does have that 1 fumble lost. So I'm going to give the edge to CeeDee Lamb and the Dallas Cowboys here with wide receiver 1. Once again, argue with the wall. Now, if you had to, gun to my head, who am I taking between A.J. Brown and CeeDee Lamb? That's tough. It's tough. I'm probably going to go CeeDee Lamb. Just because that rushing potential, he has a couple of rushing touchdowns this season. I do think he's a better underneath pure route runner. A.J. Brown obviously is the better deep threat here. Much bigger body, can go up and get it as well for you. Wide receivers 2, Devonta Smith has been better than Brandon Cooks. Let's get into the statistics. Smith has 64 catches on 87 targets. That's 834 receiving yards to this point, 6 receiving touchdowns, 69.5 yards per game. He had that great touchdown catch over Deron Bland in the first matchup. Great throw by Hurts, great catch by Smith in the corner of the end zone. He's easily going to get to 1,000 yards this season. All he needs is about 165 more yards with several games to go. He'll easily get to 1,000. One of the best wide receiver duos in the league is Brown and Smith is one of the best wide receiver 2s in the league by far. On the other side, Brandon Cooks has 37 catches for 52 targets, 497 yards, 5 touchdowns receiving, 45.2 yards per game. So basically every single statistics, catch, receptions, targets, touchdowns, yards per game, all goes to Devonta Smith. He clearly wins the position battle for wide receiver 2. Let's move to the tight end. Dallas Goedert is back this week. He got hurt in that game against Dallas in week 9. Marquise Bell going for a tackle. Dallas Goedert's going for a stiff arm. He grabs him by the arm, takes him down, twists it up. Gruesome injury, ugly to see. A lot of people said it was a dirty play, a cheap shot. But when someone's stiff arming you and you're a DB and it's a tight end stiff arming you, you got to grab on anything you can. And his arm stiff arming him was the only thing you could get a hold of. It's a tough play, but glad to see Goedert back for the Eagles and glad to see that back for my fantasy team. Goedert on the season, 38 catches on 52 targets, 410 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns, 45.6 yards per game. On the other side, Jake Ferguson, 46 catches on 66 targets, 498 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns, 41.5 per game. It's hard to distinguish between these two, who I think is having the better season. I'm going to be biased and take Jake Ferguson. I know Dallas Goedert's statistics are hampered by his injury the last few weeks. Ferguson has 8 more catches on 14 more targets. He only has 88 more receiving yards, 3 more touchdowns. He's actually averaging 4 less receiving yards per game. But Jake Ferguson has been awesome, and he was really good the last time these two teams played. So those are the offensive individual stats. I'm giving Dallas the quarterback advantage. I'm giving Philly the running back advantage. I'm giving Dallas the wide receiver 1 advantage. I'm giving Philly the wide receiver 2 advantage, and I'm giving Dallas the tight end advantage. Should be an awesome game. I think Philly has the advantage offensive line-wise, in my opinion, and then I think defense is a wash. Maybe Cowboys, I would say, have the better defense just to what we've seen. But last week for Dallas's defense really hurt, in my opinion. Kind of exposed some things. Deron Bland got picked on in that first half and gave it up. I think he was like 5 of 6, 5 catches given up on 6 targets, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns in the first half given up. It's like, come on, man, we're going to need more than that. We're going to need a lot more than that in this game against a team that has 2 really, really good receivers. So let's get to the X factors in this game. Offensively, the X factor for the Eagles is going to be DeAndre Swift. I believe he's good to go. He's not on the injury report after taking that big hit, as I mentioned last week. I've already given you the statistics earlier in this video. He's been really good for Philly. Philadelphia is is undefeated when Swift gets 10 plus carries. Can he get 10 carries in this game? I feel like that should be a really easy thing to get your RB1 10 carries in the game. But for some reason, Philly and Brian Johnson have gone away from the run attack a lot more than they probably should, as that was a huge thing for them last season. Rely on that offensive line, rely on Hurts making that read on an RPO, and run the damn ball behind your line. I think Swift is going to be the offensive X factor for Philly in this game. Now for Dallas, I'm going to go with Jake Ferguson, who's been on one in the last 5 weeks. It's crazy. Whenever Dak started playing well, CeeDee Lamb goes up, Brandon Cooks goes up, Jake Ferguson goes up, and it's like, it's incredible what happens. First time these two teams played, Ferguson had 7 catches on 10 targets, 91 receiving yards in the game, and a touchdown. And 5 of those 7 catches were for first downs, averaging over 13 yards per catch. He is going to be the Dallas Cowboy offensive X factor in this game. We saw it last week against the Niners. They kind of exposed that short to intermediate routes on the field offensively, and that's exactly what a tight end does. He does that short to intermediate across the middle. And can Dak Prescott hit Jake Ferguson, and can they exploit that Philly soft underbelly? Defensively, I'm going to give it to Kevin Byard for the Eagles. All I can remember is a couple years ago, I think it was either the first game when Amari Cooper was on Dallas, or it was the game prior to them trading for Amari Cooper. Kevin Byard came in with the Titans and absolutely destroyed the Cowboys, celebrated on the star. I believe he had 2 picks in the game, went absolutely crazy. He has 89 tackles on the season, 1 interception, 1 fumble recovery, on the season. And you look at the last time these teams played, I think that was his first game in Philadelphia, was against Dallas, or maybe it was the second game if they played Washington the week before. But Byard had 9 tackles in that game against Dallas the first time. I look for him to have a big impact in this one the second time around. For Dallas's X factor defensively, we're going to go with Osa Odighizuwa. Whenever you play Philly, it's that offensive line of Philly against the defensive line, whoever their opponent is. And I'm going to take the man in the middle of that Dallas Cowboy defensive line. Odighizuwa has been really good this season. The stats don't tell the whole story. Only 39 tackles, 3 sacks, 8 tackles for loss. 3 sacks. The first time these two teams played, he only had 3 tackles for 0 sacks. And the one play that I remember more vaguely than anything, I believe Hurts was rolling out right, and you just see Odighizuwa just like flailing and falling as he's trying to chase in pursuit. I think he's going to be a big factor in the middle of this defensive line for Dallas. Can you stop the run? If you're lining up against Jason Kelce, it's going to be a fun battle. but that's a battle you got to try and win, or at least try to slow down a little bit, as that Eagles rushing attack. So Osa Digizua in the middle should be able to provide that for the Dallas Cowboys. Let's get to the 5 keys for Dallas Cowboy victory. What does Dallas have to do? What are 5 things they have to do to win on Sunday Night Football and take first place in the NFC East following Week 14? Number 1, if you've been watching these videos, you know exactly what it is. Red zone offense. When you get down and the 20 to go, you have to punch in touchdowns. Against these good teams, you're not going to win kicking field goals. You simply aren't. Last week, they were 4 for 8 in the red zone, 4 touchdowns on 8 red zone trips. You got to clean that up. Looking at the first time these two teams played, Dallas was 3 for 5 in the red zone in that game, 5 trips to the red zone, only 3 touchdowns. And Philadelphia was 3 for 3 in the red zone, 3 trips, 3 touchdowns. So that was the difference maker in that game. Philadelphia executed better in the red zone than Dallas did. Dallas execute in the red zone. We need touchdowns. We need 6, not 3. Second one here is going to be clean up the penalties, play disciplined football, whatever you want to call it. Last time these two teams played, Dallas had 10 penalties for 83 yards. Now, in context of that, Philadelphia had 10 for 98 yards. Excuse me. But last week in Seattle was an absolute disgrace as far as the ref show. 9 penalties on Dallas for 127 yards. If you get Philadelphia 127 free yards, you're not going to win that game. 10 out of 10 times you're going to lose that game if you get up 127 penalty yards to a good team. Can Dallas clean up the penalties? They're the most penalized team in the damn league. Clean it up. Number 3 here is going to be get off the field on third down, something Dallas has struggled with. They've been great offensively on third down, and they've been kind of mediocre defensively on third down. Looking at last week, Seattle was 9 of 14 on third down conversions, and they're one of the worst teams in the league, low 30% conversions offensively, 9 of 14 to Seattle. The first time these two teams played, Philadelphia went 7 of 14, so 50% on third downs. I would like to see a little bit better than that, Dallas, this time around. Get off the field on third down. Number 4 here is really obvious. Win the turnover battle. The first time these two teams played, there was 1 turnover, and I believe it was on the last play of the game when Dak threw short of the end zone and then CeeDee Lamb fumbled. But the game was over. Tackled and down, or fumbled and recovered. There was zeros on the clock. Game was over. No timeouts for Dallas. I believe that was the 1 turnover in the game. Can you win the turnover battle? Can you force a couple of mistakes from Jalen Hurts and this Eagles team? And can you take care of the ball yourself? It's going to be a big part of this game. Dak, you can't throw a pick 6 to Josh Sweat to start this year's game in Dallas. I don't know if you're going to bounce back. They don't have Gardner Minshew playing for them. And that's no shot at Gardner Minshew. Has been awesome this year for the Indianapolis Colts. But Jalen Hurts clearly is much, much better than Gardner Minshew. 5th and final key to a Dallas Cowboy victory is going to be to contain Jalen Hurts in the pocket. You heard Nick Bosa talking his talk after the game. Hey, I think we gave Dallas a blueprint. Can Dallas watch the tape? They talked about how Jalen Hurts likes to read the pass rush, and try to move throughout the pocket, move out of the pocket, or even scramble on the plays. If you can contain him, if your ends can do a good job containing him, and your tackles on the interior can do a good job closing that B gap, it could be a long day for Jalen Hurts. And that's no shot at Jalen Hurts, but obviously this team is much better with him on the run, or him rolling out to extend the play. Can you make him uncomfortable in the pocket? Can you collapse that pocket? That is the 5th and final key to a Dallas Cowboy victory. So the final verdict here, brought to you by Gold Fine and Bowls. The law offices of Gold Fine and Bowls. Check them out. We have their information listed everywhere below. I'm sure throughout all of our videos, you heard the ad read earlier from Nate. Go check those guys out. Any sort of questions or anything, give them a call. So the final verdict here, final score prediction for the Dallas Cowboys Philadelphia Eagles Week 14 game on Sunday Night Football in Jerry World in Arlington, Texas. I'm going to be a homer, and this time Dallas executes, and this time they don't miss out by 6 inches to Schoonmaker on the goal line. Dak Prescott doesn't step out of bounds on the 2-point conversion. Dallas gets a victory here in a shootout, 34-30, extending their home winning streak to 15 straight, and extending Dak's home winning streak against the Eagles to 5 straight, 34-30. Dallas Cowboys victory, first place Monday. I can't wait to watch all the shows. We will have a recap of this game given out on Monday or Tuesday of this upcoming week, so make sure to check that out. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like below, leave a comment below with your prediction for this game, how you feel about either of these teams moving forward. And thank you guys for watching. We appreciate all the engagement and all the views. Take care. Thank you guys. And let's have a great game on Sunday night. Let's go.